So here we are, the location score lads, and we're now talking about auction clearance rate. So Bryce, what's an auction clearance rate?
Yeah, it's the bane of my life, Ben, particularly when it's running really high. But as a buyer's agent, you know, we go to an auction and we want to be the only bidder at the auction. But sadly,
go away, everyone else, go away.
It's like going to a restaurant on Friday night. You go, this restaurant would be really great if it wasn't for the other old people around here. It's a bit like that. But the auction clearance rate, as it sounds, is how do these properties clear through the auction campaign? But what's often forgotten is it also includes the period leading up to the auction if it's sold prior, in the 3 days, and also after. So the auction clearance rates that you see usually on a weekend get adjusted over the week, but largely speaking, it's how many properties go under the hammer, under the campaign versus those that just sort of fitter away and they've got to go into a private sale campaign.
Totally, and I think, you know, what's really important to understand here is that there's confidence from the agent because he's got enough buyers, he thinks, that he wants to take it to auction. So that is, for me, it's one of the absolute key indicators for real-time demand in a market, whereas we get a lot of data that's reported 3 or 4 months later. I just absolutely love this data because it's in real time for me. So Jeremy, in terms of auction clearance rate scores, tell me some of the things you've seen that have been good scores and not so great scores.
Well, obviously the best score is 100%, worst is 0. There you get more information. I think some of the scores can be a little misleading. I think whenever you see something like 0 or 100%, it's possible there's only been one auction.
Correct.
33%, there may have been one auction that 3 auctions and one sold.
Yeah.
So again, very thinly traded. So it can be an unreliable indicator if the volume is quite small.
Agreed.
But you see something like 81.6%, and you know there's been more than just a couple of auctions there, and that is a high rate. Anything above about 70%, I think you're looking at for a large area. You're looking that's healthy market. That's where demand is definitely exceeding supply, and anything below about 40% should be triggering alarm bells. And
it's more of a big metropolis market measure, because I think it's a wonderful measure, but it doesn't work everywhere. If you think about the Perth market and the Tasmanian market, where even the Queensland market, that when it's a bit of a seller's market, they do have a few more auctions, but generally speaking, it's a Melbourne and Sydney measure. Not exclusively, but generally speaking. So it's a terrific measure, but as long as you're in a market, as you sort of indicated, as long as you're in a market that's big enough. So I guess it's another, reinforcement that each of these indicators are great, but in isolation, they don't tell the full story.
No, and you want to look over a period of time too. So let's say we only have that, that week there's a record of 100% for that one auction sold, but then there's next weekend there's 12 going to auction. So there might have been a long weekend that weekend, so that skewed the number, but we start to see that number trend out over time. And that's really important to understand, that we're not just sort of saying, okay, let's look at 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. We're actually trying to look for a trend, and you'll see that in the reports that you get around that trending line. And so if the auction clearance rate's trending up, that's a really good sign that the area is under demand pressure, isn't it?
Yeah, for a large market like a city market, if you can see that trend, it's an indicator that something's going on there. But more smaller markets, like just at a suburb level, really becomes an issue of how many auctions. Is it a thinly traded market? And you can find that some properties lend themselves well to auctions. So atypical properties or affluent areas may have more auctions than lower socioeconomic demographics.
Yep. And one last tip is also, don't look at just the actual suburbs. You've got to break it down into units and houses, okay? Because there might be really strong demand for houses, but not so strong demand for units. So if you're looking to buy a unit in that market, it may not be a good measure of supply and demand. So there you have it, auction clearance rate, another one of the important variables in location score.